It doesn't matter which party you vote for. It really doesn't. They're all going to take your freedoms away. As some of you may know, we built this tiny house for $5,000. Now I know there's YouTubers out there, that's not possible, you can't do that. Material cost is too high. Much better to go out and get a Home Depot shed. Well, we did. Built it for $5,000 during the pandemic when lumber prices were going up. So as you know, we bought this property for $4,200. Oh, you can't do that anymore. Yes, you can. They're still all over the place. We look all the time. The key to both you can't do anything is Facebook Marketplace. When we built the tiny house, we had to tear down a mobile home. So we tore that down and built it right on top of the frame. And so now we have a trailer frame here. Code enforcement guy who came by to check us out, long story, don't want to get into that again, said that we could build it on a trailer frame. It's considered a remodel. I thought, and I still do believe, that as long as you built it under 200 square feet, you didn't need to follow code either. So you didn't have to follow code, but I just went with his, oh, I don't need to follow code because it's on a trailer frame. So now there will be some who will say, oh no, you gotta have government codes because you gotta think about safety. You only have one exit. Of course, I got windows, and you gotta have a door a certain size. Why? I don't have furniture to go in and out of it. You gotta have, you know, it's always about safety. And then when you talk about wood stoves, oh, the fire department. And I say, as a true freedom loving person, that as long as I don't burn down the place around me, if there's a fire in the house, I'm gonna put it out myself. If it starts to get out of hand, of course, then I will call the fire department. I've had a house fire before, put it out myself. Never called the fire department, saved me thousands in insurances and, you know, all the headaches and everything. Cost me $800 to make the repairs. Paid for it myself. But so many people believe that you got to have code to build a house. And I would think that most Republicans and Democrats think the same way. Every county in the country has codes. Whether they're conservative counties or liberal counties, they have codes. I don't see anybody saying, oh, no, let's get rid of the codes. Nope, got to think about safety. And government is the only one that can provide safety. When I'm talking about the title of this video, I'm not talking about codes, but it is important that I get to that point. Most of the materials we got from Facebook Marketplace, these windows here were all used or secondhand. That's important. So this window, you know, it's got the J hook in here, so the siding fit in it okay, but this one didn't. It was all from the same person, so I had to buy the J hook. This is metal, that was plastic. And then this one over here was still in the original package, and it had a J hook, but this one doesn't open. And I don't think we spent more, gosh, I'm just gonna guess $200 for all those windows. And then we found OSB used, and at the time I think they were going like for $9 a sheet at Home Depot, but we got them for like $5. The door we got the same place we got the windows. We reused a lot of materials from the old trailer. And then of course we bought the metal framing from Menards, and that was a nightmare. If you were to go out and buy these, it would cost $90,000. There's a big movement down in Texas with tiny homes, and there's a manufacturer down there, and they're selling them for $90,000. I don't know how much of a savings that is, but a lot of young people are moving into these things. I mean, with the green movement and the can't afford homes anymore, this is the way to go. Most people can't buy a house. They get out of college or high school, look for a place to live, and of course loan companies aren't going to give you a loan for a house, so you go and rent. And now you're paying so much in rent that you can never save up to pay the down payment on a house. Of course, I don't advocate to pay payments on anything. Pay it outright. So this, I paid outright. So no matter what happens to the economy, I lose my job, whatever happens, I will still have my home as long as I pay taxes. I know somebody's going, you can't afford taxes. It's because you have a big house. I have a small house, so my taxes are $43 a year. When you own a mansion, you know, $1 million home, yeah, you're paying $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a year in taxes, and then complain that your taxes are too high. No, your house is too high. If you can't afford the taxes, then you can't afford the house. So just minimize your life, and I think that's what a lot of young people are doing. You know, we talk about good taxes are too high, but everybody wants good roads, everybody wants good schools, everybody wants good government funded projects. But then when it's time to pay for it, well, government's just a bunch of ripoffs. Well, I just don't rely on government. Like I said, I don't really care if the fire department comes down, takes care of my place if it burns down. As long as I don't hurt anybody else, I'm going to do it myself. So that's key. I'm not going to hurt anybody. So I pay taxes for $43 a year. So the fire department will come out here. So if I do something stupid and burn my place down, I don't care if they fix this. Just make sure I don't burn down the neighbor's house, please. That's how I spend my taxes. So I also provide my own water and electric. I don't require any help from anybody. And I think this is a big deal for a lot of people. Depending on the time of the year, these channels like mine just explode with people who are interested in this kind of stuff, especially as they get older, they don't have kids, or young people who don't have kids. Of course, a lot of young people just aren't having kids now. But when we talk about politicians are there to get elected. Now, once they get in office, I think they become power hungry and they never leave. I mean, just look at our Congress and Senate, and the United States Congress and Senate. I mean, we got some really old people there, so they don't want to leave because they've established power. But when we elect new people into Congress, then they do the same thing. They ended up loving the power. I remember watching this one politician, really liked him when he first got in, when he was a freshman congressman. But the very next year, he was doing the same things that the old congressmen were doing. They must have somehow enticed him with money. It's got to be about money. And I think it's all corrupt. But they're going to do what you want them to do. And believe it or not, I see it in the comment section all the time. Conservatives, people who call themselves conservatives, still want government to take care of them in some aspect. I don't. Well, what about Social Security? Well, Social Security is my money. I paid into it. I don't like the program. I think it's a terrible program. It was corrupt from the beginning. They have stolen from it from the beginning. The first person to collect Social Security never paid into it. At least that's what I understand. I'm not sure if that's a 100% true story. So it's a Ponzi scheme because the youngest generation is paying for the older generation's money. So when baby boomers were in the workforce, they were paying for the greatest generation. When X generation was in the workforce, they were paying for the greatest generation. It goes on like that. Of course, as the generations get smaller, there's going to be less people to pay into it. Where does money come from? It's all a scam, and both parties do it. I remember the first time I realized that both parties were corrupt. I was probably in my 20s, and I was reading an article about Social Security, as a matter of fact. And one party, I don't even remember which party it was, said that it was going to go bankrupt. And the other party argued, no, it's not. And I thought, how can they disagree on this? Either it's going to go bankrupt, or it's not going to go bankrupt. How is this an argument? How is it political? Of course, I was learning back then about politics. And so now, about every 4 years, the argument switches. The other party says, oh, it's going to go bankrupt, while the other party says, no, it's not. So it's just back and forth, but they never fix anything, ever. They just keep stealing from it. And one of these days, it will probably go bankrupt. And I suspect it will be before my 62nd birthday. I hate Social Security. I'm self-employed, been self-employed most of my life, and I have to pay more taxes than everybody else. When you pay Social Security tax, or whatever you want to call it, you pay 7.5%. The company you work for pays 7.5%, and then they get a write-off on that 7.5%, so it's free for them. But when you're self-employed, you pay the full 15%. There is no write-offs unless you become an S corporation. But doing a YouTube channel, going through all the lawyers and accountants and everything to set that up is more expensive than paying the taxes. So you're going to go broke no matter what you do if you want to be self-employed in this country. Both parties allow this to happen. Even the folks who said, that guy was the greatest president we ever had, let's get him reelected. He did nothing to change Social Security problems. And I know I'm going to get criticism for that. So I don't have any faith in any of them. So we elect these guys. A liberal, for example, will say, I want to write a bill and I need your support. So a liberal's talking to a Republican. I'm writing this bill about a green issue and I want your support. In exchange, I will give you so much money for your state. So let's say this is a Tennessee congressman, a Republican Tennessee congressman. And he's listening to this liberal, and he hears, if I support this green agenda, my state is going to get a bunch of money, and my state is going to re-elect me because I just gave them a bunch of money, tax money. And it's going to improve the roads and schools and fire departments and all that good stuff. Well, do you think the Republican is going to say, no, I can't do that? So you start reading this bill. And the bill says, we are going to ban or limit wood stoves. Now, I just made a video, and I'm going to make another video probably tomorrow on wood stoves, EPA efficient wood stoves. People will argue all the time, states are not banning wood stoves. I said that in my video. Just got a comment today. They are not banning wood stoves. Washington and Oregon requires their own specifications on wood stoves. You cannot just go and get a wood stove. You cannot get a used wood stove. You have to buy a wood stove that they want you to buy, and they're extremely expensive, which I said in the video. And the prices keep going up. So if you can't buy what you want, then it's a ban. If you have to buy what the government wants you to buy, it's a ban. So yes, states are banning wood stoves. EPA has put more restrictions on wood stoves for every year. They go up in criteria. You know, a few years ago, they had to be 85% efficient. Now they got to be 95% efficient. Oh no, that's not true. Well, it is true because that's what they wrote in 2015 when they wrote the bill. So in this bill, it says, let's ban wood stoves. Now the Republican is going to say, wait a minute, ooh, wood stoves. Do I really need the money from my state that bad that I want to ban wood stoves? Well, think about it. How many people actually have wood stoves? 1% of the population, 2% of the population, whatever it is. But I still get 98% of the vote, even if I ban wood stoves. Yeah, I lose a few voters, but I still get reelected. So yeah, let's ban wood stoves. So that's how both parties are corrupt. These aren't negotiations, these are cons. I'm going to con you into signing my bill, backing my bill. I don't care what your constituents say. Tennessee, I know a YouTuber bought a Home Depot shed. Now around here, you can use Home Depot sheds to live in. There's a Home Depot shed someone's living in a trailer park right next to the main road. Everybody drives by it all the time. There's no way you can miss it. There's other Home Depot sheds around here people are living in. So around here you can do that. Well, this person lives in Tennessee. They bought a Home Depot shed. But I found out Tennessee does not allow you to live in Home Depot sheds. Now, let's think about this. Tennessee is a mostly conservative state. Yet they still ban you from living in what you want to live in. Well, you got to think about safety. That's because that's what it says in the when you Google it. That Tennesseans are concerned about safety. Well, whose safety do they worry about? Mine? Don't bother. I'll worry about my own safety. If I'm too stupid to not be safe in a Home Depot shed, then I don't need your help. I can be stupid as all I want. I can hurt myself all I want, as long as I don't make you pay for it. Insurance is another thing. Got to have insurance. You know, there's government regulations, car insurance and all that. So yeah, I understand that if you're going to end up hurting someone, that you should be able to cover their cost. So you wreck into someone's car, you need to pay their car. You hurt them in a vehicle accident, you need to be able to pay for their hospital bills. But why do I need insurance on this? I'm not hurting anybody. But they tell me I got to have insurance. What if somebody gets hurt in your property? Well, that's why I have this no trespassing sign. No one's allowed on my property. And that allows, in the state of Missouri, me to say I don't owe anybody anything if they get hurt on my property because I didn't give them permission to be here. Well, with the tiny house, with it only being $5,000, if it burns down, I can replace it myself. I don't need insurance. I think that most conservatives believe in some form of government that restricts their freedoms, even though they will advocate, no, we don't want restrictions on our freedoms. That's why we want to live off grid in a tiny house. But as soon as someone infringes on their rights, this is happening to Florida. People are moving from New York to Florida. But it happens everywhere. You get city folks who get tired of the politics in the city. So what do? They move out here. I see people coming from Kansas City all the time here. We got some of this firewood, which I need to restack, it fell down, from someone who bought a house from Kansas City down here. And she's beautifying it and wants the neighbors to beautify and everything. So just imagine someone comes to my town, lives next to me. So just imagine someone moves next to me, comes from Kansas City, sees this little tiny house, and oh, we got to get some regulations in place so he can clean up his yard. And over time, you have the same thing here as what you had in Kansas City. You end up bringing your politics with you. And this is what happens to conservatives who say they're free, they want to be free. You live in a society and you begin to believe in conformity. And you begin to believe that you have to do codes. So if you'll click this up next box to take you to a video where I was talking about that wood stove, I'd like to see it. So I hope I can inspire you to find your freedom so you can live your dreams. Thanks for watching.